Like now, everybody can see me, but I can't see them. But the show must go on. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Okay, so it's us again, and I just, every time that we meet, I get excited because it's just a really great opportunity to continue to share this space with, stakeholders. And, we all work with parents and we work with the students in the community. So these conversations, even though they may seem redundant at times, are so urgent. And so today's topic with the conversations with the counselor, this is actually part 2 of A Mind is a Terrible Thing to Waste, and how we are working towards normalizing counseling support and therapy for students and families that we serve. So in part 2, we're going to be talking more about preparation and consistency. So let's get started. Okay, so I know a lot of times when we talk about therapy and we talk about counseling, a part of us normalizing it or even preparing our students and our parents to be receptive, because a lot of times, when we start talking about therapy and counseling, especially in an urban community, is so taboo, right? And so it's very important that as we prepare, right, our students and our families, even for the conversation of counseling and therapy, when we see it as needed, we have to make sure that they're all using the same language. We have to make sure that we're using the same language with them initially so they can really be more receptive to the process. Because we know, when even with us, and we're educators and we have degrees and certifications, but, even when we go somewhere outside of our lane or to a doctor or, different specialists, and they start using language that is far above our heads, how does that make us feel? Anybody can share. Can everybody hear me?
They can hear you.
Oh,
You
okay.
can unmute if you want to, or
No.
if
I like
I'm
the
speaking
conversation
to
to be
the
fluid.
audience, or you can answer in the chat because I'm monitoring the chat.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I like the conversation, the dialogue to be fluid. It's just, it's like about perception now because I can't see everybody. So, a lot of times, going back to the question that I asked, a lot of times when we go outside of our own realm or lane and we go to different specialists or, we go to experts in other fields and they start to speak in languages or terms that we don't quite understand, how does that make us feel?
Uncomfortable.
Yes, uncomfortable, maybe, ignorant to a certain extent. And so, that's why it's so important for us. Thank you, Mr. Steele. That's why it's so important for us to make sure that we're using the right language, because we don't really want our students and our parents to feel ignorant. We want them to be as educated as we are, especially when we talk about counseling and therapy. So that's why I thought that it was appropriate for me to start with counseling versus therapy, because as we prepare our students and our families for a conversation of getting mental health support, that they have to understand the difference between counseling and therapy. So, yay, there we go. Thank you. So now I can see everybody. It makes me feel better. So counseling is, again, usually a counselor. That's who I am. So, we are a really fortunate district, because even at every single elementary school has a school counselor. We're also a very fortunate district because our school district offers a resource like the Parent Resource Center, right? And we know that there's some other mid-sized districts and surrounding districts that don't even have this level of support. But a school counselor focuses on a specific issue for a limited amount of time. And so a lot of times, just speaking from the counselor's perspective, our parents may be resistant to therapy or using outside agencies and resources, but they're not all the way resistant to their students talking to school counselors. But what I often say to parents is that on the school counselor side of things, I'm the catalyst between them and the resources, right? I'm the conduit between them and the resources. I can't act as a clinician here with ACBOE for their student. I'm not a therapist. So school counselors really help with maintenance. That's why we have to put more permanent counseling and therapy resources in place. And then I, right, along with the other 9, 10, 11, 15 school counselors in the district, then we support With maintenance, we are support personnel. Is that clear? Everybody kind of understand that? Anybody want to chime in? Okay. And so then therapy, now therapists are skilled and trained and certified to give specific diagnoses that are connected to mental health related disorders, which is very different. So a therapist, or therapy can be, again, of course, and we all know because we know, therapy can be more long-term. It focuses on typically the student or the family or the individual, how they see themselves in the world, their thoughts, their behaviors, as well as underlying patterns or pathology connected to their mental health concerns, right? A lot of times therapy will also be coupled with prescription as well. So of course, I'm not meeting with students, or when I say I mean school counselors as a whole. We're not meeting with students and diagnosing them and then writing them a prescription. See, that's the difference, right? Okay. Any questions? Okay, now this is a short video because a lot of times, even when we put certain things in the words.
Andrew,
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
Therapists write prescriptions? Or did I hear that correctly?
Yes, therapists can prescribe because therapists can diagnose.
Okay.
Yeah. So, school counselors, that's outside of our realm. We don't do that, Mr. Steele. That's why we are more so maintenance. So, that's why we want to, start to encourage. And I do believe that everybody deserves counseling and therapy. I do believe that. But
I understand your role. I just was not aware that therapists had the ability or the authority to write prescriptions.
yes.
Okay.
Yep. So now in this video, which I thought was kind of cute, especially, as we, again, I share this stuff on my Google Classroom, and I know that, the Parent Resource Center has like a bank or some type of like platform now where you share videos. And so a lot of times, people may learn better from seeing, right? The language may still seem a little like all over the place, especially as we continue to try to normalize these discussions about mental health, because it's hard. It's hard in urban communities to talk about mental health because, we've been programmed to not really talk about it at all. So I want to show this quick video, and then we'll have another discussion about the role of school counselors.
School counselors are key members of the school community, but the role they play can be a mystery. Keep watching to learn how ASCA-minded school counselors implement comprehensive developmental programs that benefit all students. In elementary school, counselors spend quite a bit of time in classrooms doing lessons on various concepts and character traits. Lessons may fall under one of these three domains: academic, personal, social, or career. Each lesson is developed with certain learning outcomes and objectives in mind. Counselors in your school may even conduct a needs assessment to determine what kind of lessons your students need the most. The benefits of classroom guidance are vast. In fact,
I want to stop there really quickly because I just want to give you an example of classroom guidance. Now, classroom guidance can really look different at different schools, depending on the administrator and how the administrator really wants the school counselor to really shape and guide the climate of the particular school. Again, really based on the demographic, because all of the schools and all the kids are different. So it's just recently, just this week, one of my classroom guidance programs was focused on our 8th grade, because we have a number of 8th graders who applied to ACIT, right? I noticed that when I was doing lunch duty, a lot of the 8th graders had a lot of the same questions about now ACIT is actually expecting them to do some type of assessment, which makes sense. This is a cohort of students who haven't standardized tested in 2 years. Okay. So I was saying to the students that ACIT this is an assessment that the ACIT wants you to take to really continue to measure your aptitude, right? Because this is a cohort, again, in light of COVID, who hasn't standardized tested in about 2 years. So that's an example of classroom focused counseling, right? Where I took the whole 8th grade and I met with them to support them so they can be best prepared to take this assessment for those who actually applied the ACIT. Answered all their questions, and that's why, when they say, I guided the classroom counseling session, gave them different insight, answered all their questions, made them feel very comfortable and less vulnerable to the process because the ACIT application process has changed. So I just wanted to give you an example of what the video is talking about. Okay.
The elementary level, comprehensive developmental counseling programs can increase students' academic achievement. Small group counseling is an effective technique to benefit students because it provides an opportunity for peers to feel supported and work in a group setting.
Okay, now I'll stop here. Now, Ms. Brown Kidd has been privy to see me doing small group counseling sessions at times to help students really problem solve. A lot of our students don't really have the skills to problem solve, especially when it comes to like I'm frozen. Oh, okay. Ms. Brown Kidd has been privy to seeing me, do small group counseling sessions, really to help students, resolve conflict. A lot of them don't have the tools to resolve conflict, and it's really a challenge for them to do it, even when they want to, in front of an audience of peers. So, of course, school counselors, we create a safe space for them to really express themselves in what's really going on without, the instigation of the audience, right, which is their peers. So this is a really good tool too. And it actually really works because you'd be quite surprised that when we create safe spaces for our kids to really use their own words and articulate how they're feeling, they can really mediate themselves, but they have to have the tools. So that's another example of what they're talking about in the video.
It also allows school counselors to work with multiple students that may struggle with the same or similar issues. Small group counseling consists of 4 to 8 students that meet for about 5 or 6 sessions weekly to work on topics such as divorce, social skills, and test anxiety. Similar to classroom guidance, sessions are developed with certain learning outcomes and objectives in mind. These objectives are assessed through pre- and post-tests, which allow the counselor to determine the effectiveness of the group meetings. Another way in which school counselors serve their students is through coordination. School counselors may coordinate ongoing systemic activities designed to assist students in establishing their personal goals and future plans. Examples of coordination at the elementary level may include the coordination of peer mentoring programs, or mentoring programs with community members. When it comes to individual counseling, school counselors meet with students on a short-term basis, and sessions are generally goal-focused. School counselors help individual students identify problems or obstacles that may be interfering with academic success. In individual counseling sessions, students have the opportunity to identify alternative solutions and consequences so they may initiate change and take action.
Okay, so an example of individual counseling, just 2 experiences that I've had this week already, and I know it's only Wednesday. I had a student who was hysterical earlier this week because she feels kind of torn between her parents because the parents are not necessarily divorced, but they've separated, and both parents now have, new partners, right? And, that might not seem like a lot for us as adults, but, kids don't necessarily know how to navigate through all those emotions when their parents aren't together anymore, right? Now, it can be that extreme, or I had a student this week who was, extremely emotional and vulnerable just from getting her second COVID shot, right? She thought that she could come to school and she was going to feel okay, and she didn't feel okay. And, that translated in, not being really focused in class. She was having like a little meltdown in class. And so then she needed some one-on-one so we can kind of work through that. So those are 2 examples, 2 different extremes of counseling, just one-on-one. Okay, so when we talk about the benefits of counseling therapy, again, I always really try to say to students and parents that it really does improve the communication and the interpersonal skills. And so a lot of times when we think that we are maybe being too persistent with parents when it comes to counseling and therapy, I absolutely believe, especially as a professional, that we aren't being persistent enough. Okay. Because we as educators, we spend a lot of time with other people's children, right? And so we sometimes see the other side of their children that they may not necessarily want to identify at home, right? And a lot of times, we have to assume that there isn't really a lot of communication going on at home, because it's a difference between talking to your kid and then being communicative. And we have a lot of households, and sometimes even our own. If you can even examine your own family, are you really just talking to your spouse or talking to your kids or talking to your grandkids, or are you being communicative? And that's a huge difference. The other benefits of counseling and therapy are, you have a greater self-acceptance and self-esteem, right? Because as you work through things that may bother you or give you like cloudy vision, that where you lack clarity and different things about how you feel about yourself, that affects self-esteem, right? Or the ability to change self-defeating behaviors and habits. It helps you better express and manage your emotions, including anger, because, a lot of our kids, because they are in aggressive homes, a lot of our kids, they almost like to commit and claim anger. And I don't know if that's, just with me, but I mean, can I get some feedback? Any of us, have dealings with more than one student who will lead with, "Oh, I have anger issues." Like, who told you that? Is that only specific to me, or can anybody chime in? Okay. Or the other benefits of counseling and therapy are also relief from depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions. So keep in mind too that, as we continue to do daily mental health inquiries, it really helps us diminish the likelihood of any type of mental health issues or concerns or conditions to develop. And that's why I think that we should be even more persistent about counseling and therapy, because we really don't want to have to ever be diagnosed with a real or serious mental health condition. Okay, this is another video about what is family therapy, because what I do encourage is as we talk about students who may need some counseling or therapy, we also need to encourage, right, and prepare our families to look into family therapy as well.
On my last visit to see my son, Mark, in the hospital, I noticed his attitude had improved. I was relieved to see him smile. Supporting him in his recovery journey isn't always easy. Our last several family visits with Mark were intense. My husband and I are fighting more, and I tend to lose my patience quickly with my other child. We'd sometimes just sit in silence. We didn't know how to react or what we could say to make his situation better. Mark's therapist suggested that we could benefit from family therapy. We initially brushed the idea aside. At the time, my husband and I thought our family didn't need any help. I assumed it was Mark who had all the issues. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that trying to cope with the challenges of Mark's mental health condition had taken a toll on the whole family. I made a call to Mark's therapist. He recommended a licensed therapist who specializes in family therapy.
Family therapy is a type of psychotherapy or talk therapy in which members of a family attend sessions together. The family group may be as small as 2 people and may be composed of people who live together or apart. The goal is usually to improve communication and connections between family members, resolve conflict, and potentially learn about a loved one's diagnosis.
I was nervous about family therapy. I wasn't sure how my family would handle these sessions. I braced myself for the first meeting with the therapist.
At our first appointment, the therapist explained the ground rules she expected us to follow. She provided us a form which listed the rules and asked all of us to honor each one.
The therapist let each of us talk about how we communicate and how we respond when we feel angry with one another. It wasn't easy, but I'm glad we were honest with each other. After a few sessions, we planned to start working on our new communication skills. The therapist even assigned us homework. She asked us to spend an evening doing an activity together. It was a little awkward at first, but still fun.
We stuck to it, kept going to therapy and doing our homework. And it has been paying off. Things are better now, and we're less tense around each other. Managing Mark's condition is also a bit easier since we're talking more and using the new skills we've learned. My husband noticed the difference, and he started coming to therapy with us. Together, we're working to make each day better as a family.
Does anybody want to share anything? How did you feel after you watched the video about family therapy? I mean, even if it, even as it relates to maybe, some of your own personal family values. Anybody want to share? Okay, I will. Well, in a lot of cases, with our parents may think that, oh no, I don't really need any, I don't really need any counseling. I don't need any therapy, just my kid kind of thing, right? And this is if they buy into it. But this is what I usually impress upon parents. So counseling itself deserves a certain level of investment, just like they invest in sneakers, just like they invest in PlayStations and hairstyles. Counseling itself deserves an investment. And a lot of times when our parents don't connect to the counseling process with their students, once they get their students connected, a lot of times the counseling may still be ineffective because our parents haven't really made the investment collectively. So it's like counseling then turns into like another babysitting service, right? Or, how can a parent model or buy into the principles or the values or whatever the student is learning in a counseling session if they aren't actively involved, right? And a lot of times, just from a couple sessions, when the family gets together, they immediately see results, even if it's just in temperament meaning just their own personal attitudes, right? And I'm not necessarily saying that counseling and therapy is magical, but I'm definitely believing that there are some huge benefits to, having an objective person to talk to, because a lot of us, this whole life thing that we're trying to navigate through didn't come with a manual, and things arise and things happen. And a lot of our mental health is, jeopardized because of the adverse life experiences, right? But we don't necessarily have to end up committing to depression or committing to anxiety or committing to bipolarism, right? We can really manage our mental health daily to stay successful in life. Okay, so as we continue to talk about preparation and consistency, so ways to prepare our students and our parents to even consider counseling or therapy, we have to first start with just having honest conversation with the children about what counseling is and the benefits and why. Because again, too, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but the parents are typically more likely to consider counseling or therapy based on the relationship the student builds with the school counselor, if that makes sense, right? Miss Brown Kid has seen it too, where I've had students come in here from, talks, and a lot of times I talk to the kids casually. A lot of talks, the influence is so real where a student will then come to me and say, you know what, Ms. Owens, I think I want to start getting counseling. Just imagine how that one student can really change the trajectory of their entire family if they really hop on and really get the counseling and support that they need, right? Be prepared to participate in counseling too. We got to say that to the parents because it's holistic and the whole family should be getting the same benefits, not just the student. We also want the parents to be, or we want to be open to saying and sharing things. Well, we want to make sure that the parents are prepared for a counseling or a therapeutic situation or experience by being open to saying and sharing things that they may have never said out loud before. And we also have to encourage our children to be honest and open as well, because that's really one of the main pitfalls or roadblocks in counseling or therapy, is when you have the opportunity to sit in front of an expert or professional and really get some of the support that you need, but then you withdraw and then you're not honest. So then that's when the sessions can be just as ineffective, and then it's a waste of time for everybody, right? And again, as professionals, as we continue to talk to students and parents about counseling and therapy, we have to lead with all the benefits. And, we just actually went through a lot of the benefits, how it increases communicative nature, how it increases self-discipline and self-efficacy, how it lessens anxiety and bouts of depression, right? And we also have to be prepared to try, and we also want our students and parents to be prepared to try different counselors or agencies, et cetera, right? Until they find the right fit. But we don't want them to give up. We want them to really believe in the benefits of counseling and therapy. And I put that there in ways to prepare, because I oftentimes, even when I have conversations with certain parents, who say, well, I tried counseling, it didn't work for us. That's not an excuse to abandon the benefits of counseling and therapy just because you tried one counselor or one agency and it didn't work. And they'll give you that excuse. And I often say, Mom, listen, just like a lot of times when you can't find the right dentist, or you can't, even if you order a pair of shoes and they look one way online, and then when you try them on your feet, they just weren't a fit and you exchange them. That's how we have to treat counseling. And the first time they connect with certain counselors and agencies is not always going to be the best fit. That's like unrealistic, right? So we want to continue to use that type of language to continue to reframe the negative energy into a more positive situation, to still get them again and believing in the benefits of counseling and therapy. Okay. And as we are actually coming to a close, I just really wanted to dispel some of the common language and myths that you'll hear from parents. And this is actually kind of like what I was just talking about, where, you'll have parents say, I tried counseling and it didn't work, or they can't help me, right? Well, the misconception of a counseling or a therapeutic situation is that your counselor or your therapist is supposed to fix you. That's not the idea, right? Or I cannot afford counseling. If the parents are resistant to counseling, does that usually affect the child's decisions? That's a really good question. Now, a lot of times when the parents are resistant, but the students still want to do some type of counseling, those are the students who I support more in school, okay? Because they may not, a lot of times students can't, get their own professional counseling. But because I am here as a school counselor to support students to be successful, those are the students who I focus on more, because I see that they really want to change the way they're thinking. And, if we can change when we can change ourselves in the way that we think, that's how we change behavior, right? So, we have to encourage those students who do believe. And then hopefully through their transformation, their parents will believe. But again, it's really like a systemic issue that, over time, if we all continue to use the same language, hopefully everybody will be on board. Okay. A lot of times, again, some other common language and myths, I cannot afford it. And that's not really, that's not the case. We have tons of free resources for mental health support. Even us as staff and faculty for our City Board of Education, even when we have different bouts of depression or we're not feeling really good and we want to talk to somebody objectively, that's a call to like human resources or benefits, and it's supposed to be confidential. And most of us have the opportunity to receive at least 6 to 8 weeks of free counseling. So that's not the truth, right? That's a myth. Or my counselor didn't fix my problems. Talk louder. Oh, my counselor didn't fix my problems. And again, that's a myth, because counselors and therapists aren't charged with, the challenge or the task to fix people's problems. Counselors and therapists are, again, the catalyst or the conduit to really help people see the way that they think and behave, and then give them the tools to change their own thoughts and behaviors, right? And one of the most popular or most common misuses of language or myths are that people who seek counseling are weak. And if I don't leave you with anything else today in regards to a message of preparation and consistency as it relates to believing in counseling and therapy, I want to leave you with this, that it's quite the opposite. People who seek counseling are courageous and resilient because they aren't willing to give up. And so they believe in the benefits of counseling and therapy because they know that they can't do certain things alone. Valley experiences are very real. And anybody who thinks that they can, fix themselves sometimes without any type of iron or any type of insight from an expert, those people will more than likely continue to struggle in this thing that we call life, right? And that's it. And as I always do, I always share resources because these are the resources that as a school counselor, I live by and I believe in. And these are the resources that I share with students and parents regularly. And this isn't anything new. I've been a school counselor for a long time for, different districts, a resource to the community. And I believe in mobile response and perform care. I believe in alcove because I don't want to continue to PIP children, right? And that's the psychiatric.
Change backgrounds again.
And I am done. So I will take any questions.
Ms. Owens, there's a question in the chat. Does it really start at the counseling level?
Does what really start at the counseling level?
Mr. Mack offered the questions. He might be able to elaborate more on what he wants to know.
Yeah, what I was asking was the honesty, does it really start at the counseling level? I was, like you said, you want your client to come in and be honest and let you know exactly what's going on. But what I'm asking is, does it really start at the counseling level for the client to come in and be so honest?
No. That's why because a lot of times the first level is the student and the parent has engaged with us, right? And so that's why, as we talk about preparation and consistency, we have to start telling the parents, listen, if you're open to therapy, if you're open to seeing a counselor, the first thing, mom, you're going to have to be honest. I'm saying that to parents.
Right.
Because,
but
Indra,
I don't mean to cut you off, but Indra, what I was saying was I've had students who've come in and sat and let me know about things that their parents maybe don't know about or they don't talk about with their parent. And that's why I was asking, does it really start at the counseling level? I think it starts at the mentoring. It could even start at below the counseling, like at the mentoring level.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And we're saying the same thing, Mr. Mack. That's why it's important for us to use the same language because they trust us typically. Yeah, we're the first people that they deal with. And so you're absolutely right. Now you've come to me and we have a trusting relationship and you're pretty honest with me. So then that's what we're saying. The next step is once you get into like a counselor or a therapeutic session, don't get there and not be honest. Be just as open. Yeah. But, they have to be coached or mentored into that because a lot of times, our people don't seek counseling because of that trust issue. Yeah, but no, I'm agreeing with you. A lot of times, no, it doesn't start there. It starts with us. I agree.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if I might add to that, any of us who deal with children, parents, our relatives, whatever, if we do have a trustworthy relationship with those people, they most likely will share things with us that they might not share with other people. But when I'm thinking about what Ms. Owens is saying, and excuse the noise because I'm in the hallway, I'm thinking that, as we listen to what she's telling us, we have to really be prepared to be able to bridge that person to the next step, I think. So that's where I think our school counselors might come into play and anyone else who we might deem as a resource, i.e. the resources that Ms. Owens shared with us. So I thank all of you for your questions. Do we have Any other questions for Ms. Owens? Ms. Owens, you want to have last words, please?
No, I just wanted to say again that, I professionally and personally live by the resources that I share. Again, just like Mr. Mack was saying, as we continue to show up in our students' lives as like mentors and those first people that they do have trusting relationships with, don't be afraid to please use these resources. It's better that we're persistent in using mobile response and different and perform care and different stabilization services than a school counselor, having to go through the process to PIP a kid because a kid is saying that they have certain suicidal ideations. Like that's it. If we continue to be proactive, then we don't have to be reactive. A lot of times when our kids are saying that they want to hurt themselves and kill themselves, it's really because they're looking for somebody who they can talk to, right? So I would love for us to like continue to just be preventative and proactive versus reactive, especially as it comes to mental health. And so I thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you again, Ms. Owens, for a very insightful presentation. And we look forward to hearing from you on our next conversations with the counselor. Bye now, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.